Hey guys, we're Unconventional Norms. We share stories of people who have found success or are on the path to find their own success in their own unconventional ways. In society, we often see this common culture to have to get perfect grades, to always compare ourselves to others, and needing to get to the top college in order to reach success. And we really want to change this mindset and culture to see that there are many different unconventional ways to find success.
Right, so today we have with us cinematographer Tommy Trinh. And Tommy worked for Just Kidding Films, and he is now a part of the studio Formula Arts. So if you check out the Formula Arts website, you can see some of the work he's done, and it genuinely looks dope. Tommy has worked behind the scenes on a lot of visuals and videos, so chances are you've seen some of his content without even realizing it. So without further ado, Tommy, go ahead and introduce yourself and share your story of how you got to where you are today.
Hi guys, I'm Tommy Trinh. Probably you guys know me, see me like on social media with like others, social media like associates on YouTube or Instagram or any other type of like music videos type content. So quick introduction. I've been working in entertainment since 2007, 8. I landed my first internship in the music industry and was working with Far East Movement. I don't know if you guys ever heard of them. They were
kind of bro. They're amazing.
Right. So they were like the kind of like the first cats, almost the first, but say super mainstream in the music hip hop industry for Asian Americans at the time. So I was very thankful and grateful to be able to land an internship with them and then started working with them for the next 4 years, pretty much throughout my entire college life. And through those years, like Far East taught me a lot. They mentorship me, but at the same time, I kind of helped them develop their brand and kind of helped develop a lot of their different events and different organizations they kind of founded throughout that time. And one of them was called ISA, or International Secret Agents, and that's a lot of young artists or just anybody's in the creative field wanted to be part of that ISA like organization and helping develop different artists and YouTubers at that time. And back in the day, early 2000s was like the wave of like Asian Americans like dominating YouTube, with Brian Higa and then Kevin and all the other guys on the platform. So it was very new, and we were merging a lot of different entertainment industries at that time. Bringing in people from Korea or Japan and all this, like everybody around the world pretty much to kind of support the, our Asian artist movement. It wasn't just being Asian American. It was like just being proud that you were Asian, whatever country you're from within Asia. So did that for 4 years. And then I kind of lost track throughout college. I kind of originally I wanted to study film and be part of film, but I fell into management and logistics, and it really built my my professional side. It was definitely something that I didn't expect learning, but I picked it up anyways. And when I came close to graduation, I was like, wait, I want to do more creative stuff. I just like more hands-on creative, not just like throwing ideas at people and having the creative team go do it. It was I wanted to do it myself, so I kind of voiced it to the boys at the time, the people I was working for, and they're like, go do it. They're super supportive about it, and that's where I kind of ventured off and started working in film industry. And that's when I officially started working with Just Kidding Films for the next 4 years and a half, and did that. And then through JK, learned a lot. And from there, I left JK and transitioned to our own film industry. Our film production crew with a couple of my friends that I've been friends with way before JK days, and friends that I met along the way within my time frame working for JK. And we had more synchronized energy and synchronized mindsets of what we want to do with film. So we kind of ventured off and did our own business, and I ended up acquiring and collecting different clients throughout the time, and here I am, quarantined at home. But that was a quick rundown of like my venture and where I kind of end up now. And you guys can ask me more questions about in-depth stuff.
So going back to when you first got into cinematography, do you have like a story of like your first camera, your first editing software, like how you got into photography, your first project, something like that you want to share?
Yeah. So I was really into video when I was like a kid. And my parents, my dad, he's a photographer. He's a hobbyist as a photographer. And he's a real estate agent as a full-time job. But his main thing he really loved doing was photography. And because of my father, he kind of introduced me to cameras. And then at home, my parents always had a camcorder I always played with when I was like, let's say like 11, 10 years old. And I would like videotape my action figures and start playing and making scenes out of them. As weird as it is. Yeah, that's what I did at home. There was no editing software. When I was 10 years old, like, dude, we only had the Windows 95 or something like that. So we had Windows Movie Maker, and that did not work really well, especially on a really old PC back in the day. We had floppy disk, guys. Like, I don't know if you guys know what floppy disks are.
Remember that? I don't know.
It's a little square disk. I can only hold like 125 megabytes. Yeah, that's like nothing these days. But back then, yeah, I really was really into videos and stuff. But I really didn't do anything with it. It was just more like, oh, it was a toy in my imaginational world. It was just a toy, right? And what got me more fascinated really into it was when my father brought home a laser disc of Star Wars. And if a laser disc is like a big disc, it's like a record, except a bigger version of a DVD. So it's this huge of like a disc. And he watched it, and I was just mind blown of Star Wars at the time. And it was like, oh my God, I gotta look into Star Wars. Like, how did they do this stuff? And it was them playing with toys in the studio. And I was like, I want to do something like that, you know? But it wasn't at that age when you're like 10, 11 years old, like you're really not saying like, oh, I got to find my career path or anything. It was just like, I just wanted to do something cool, you know? It wasn't thinking about a job. Like, come on, like as a kid, your responsibility level was like 0. So that was it. I was just me wanting to have the fun. And then through that, transitioned to college, I ended up joining it was really brand new. We started my high school started having a TV production broadcasting class, and it was like us doing morning daily bulletins. You know, like you would tape the students come in early. They'll tape like a segment of like introduce like what's happening in school, what's news stuff that's happening in school, or things that are happening within like the city at the time, and we'll broadcast it early morning like a daily bulletin. And then that was it. And then I remember at the time, me and my friends, this is like, we would make these short skits before YouTube kind of existed for our school. And we would like parody the show called 24. And that's kind of how I kind of really dived into the interest of film. And I didn't really pursue it when I went to college though. So when I went to college, I actually went to business school, and I studied business marketing for advertising and commercial, because my parents, you know, like they didn't really want me to go study arts. Typical Asian parents, it's okay. So but throughout high school, we can talk about that later, but that's pretty much how I got into cinematography. Was just my interest for it when I was younger.
I think that's really a great answer, because it kind of shows how you can take something that you just like thought was interesting like as a little kid and then like grow and learn more about it. Right. Is there like a specific moment when you realized that your like love for videography and cinematography could be like a career for you, and it was no longer just a hobby?
That's a hard question. I think it's a hard question for a lot of people starting off with, I guess, within my generation and the generation right before me. So the generation right before me would be like Wong Fu, JK, and then before them would be like almost the old school route of like Hollywood, you know. And there was no really guidance for us to like think as if it was a career path, because it wasn't taboo. It wasn't something our parents would vouch for or ever thought it would be an option, because, you know, parents coming out here, they think being stable and having enough, your finance being stable is the most important thing in life. And I feel like that kind of, like as when we're younger, we're always against that. Like, oh, I can just live paycheck by paycheck. I'll figure myself out. And as you get older, you kind of like end up changing your priorities a little bit. Not the fact of because you're giving up on your passion or you're giving up on like what you really like to do, but you feel like, oh crap, like it's not as easy as you think it is, you know? And that's just tough for that, to get into that area. But going back to like, to what it was like to making this as a career path, I never thought as a career until I was surrounded by people who were like-minded like me, or had the same interests like me, or the same discipline like me, about making a creative field into something that's stable, as a stable income. And that was like really, it took time for me to understand that, because as you growing up in a household where your parents are very strict about like pursuing medical field or engineer or aerospace engineer, the list keeps going, but right. You're taught to know that, hey, like these are the most safest, most toughest, but like ways to put food on your table and raise a family and all this other stuff. So as I was surrounded more by artists and people who were really successful in entertainment, I was like, what the heck? Like, come on, like there's more to life than just science and aerospace. Even though those kind of things are like great, I feel like those elevate, the human society and everything too. But I never really loved it, even though I liked science as well. But I never really fell for it. I was like, hey, I wanted to pursue this because it brought me joy. Right, so my parents saw that. When I was younger, my parents always they would always like push science on me, like extra science classes or extra math classes, and I wasn't bad at them. I did all right in school. I did AP and did all these honorary stuff, and I just never found joy in it. My parents saw that. I would never have fun laughing doing it, or like you never see me sit next to your friend like, oh cool, the math formulas, fuck, it was so awesome. It just never was that way. I was never hyped about like biochem, even though like if I was in a science lab and me mixing like different elements and like chemicals together, I think I'll have fun. But I wasn't never like hyped about doing it, So, but teach their own. Some people really enjoy that. So that wasn't for me personally. And from there, from just me surrounding myself back to like me being my early college days, I was like, yo, I can make a living doing this, So when I first told my parents, hey, I got an internship at this hip hop rap artist, my parents flipped. They're like, what the F? Like, what are you gonna do? Like drugs all day and drinking and partying and all this stuff? And I'm like, no, it's not like that, So they were like super iffy about it, but they weren't as, I don't know, like I guess my parents wasn't as super traditional as other Asian parents, just because I grew up in Torrance, California. Maybe you guys know where that is, and my parents are surrounded by like 5th, 6th generation Japanese. So their friends grew, like when they kind of planted themselves in this neighborhood, they kind of almost kind of Americanized our mindset a little bit, because they weren't surrounded by 1st generation, 2nd generation Asians, but more on people who are already here and kind of have a career in different areas, all over the place. So I felt like my parents wasn't as strict, but even though, but the strictness really came from their tradition mindset of like, because a lot of my family members live in OC and everybody's all that pressure, your auntie is telling your mom like, yo, my son's doing this, my son's doing that, or my daughter's doing this, my daughter's doing that, and then comparing your ass with like other people. I apologize my language. With like, with tons of other, your cousins and stuff. It's kind of weird, but my parents started realizing, hey, this is not like mentally healthy for a person to go through. Even though I don't think that they thought that way, but I felt like they felt kind of weird trying to compare my son to somebody else or a family's daughter or son or whatever, etc. Right? So they kind of questioned my actions on pursuing entertainment, and as when I brought home my first paycheck, they kind of just shut up. So That was it. Like they would like at the end of the day, your parents will always nag, right? Because they nag out of love. Or it could be really mentally stressful for a lot of us, especially for you guys too. I don't know, each of your parents are different, so I can't speak for your parents, but I felt like a lot of parents come out and show love in a really strange way, and we like as first generation, second generation Asians or third generations, depending where you guys are. It's kind of hard to translate what they want to say in whatever native language they're speaking to us and make it kind of equal. Because to them, I feel like they're still trying to show you love and care, but to us, when you translate the English, it just sounds really nasty or like sounds really really like hurtful. But it's not their intention to hurt you, and it's hard for them to kind of translate that to let you know what they feel, because communication is so different in every culture and how they're brought up, and how we're brought up and how we're surrounded by media that kind of teach you this is how you should raise your children, and this is how you should speak to each other. So like it's hard to compare, and that's when you got to take a step back and really understand their perspective and where they're coming from. And even if it is like dreadful or stressful or really like just draining on you, I feel like it's something you have to accept and understand where they're coming from. It's hard. It's not like I've been through it, like Bart, like everybody that I've talked to, like Wong Fu or JK or everybody that's with the entertainment industry that I've worked with, there's times where we've talked about our parents and how strange it was growing up. Some are more extreme than others, but they all share an underlying meaning, definition of love in a way different spectrum.
When did you come to that realization? Because I know like a lot of high schoolers, their parents say that they can't go into arts, and then the kid, it's just like why don't you understand me? This is what I want to do kind of thing.
I don't think I ever said my parents saying, "You never understand me." You walk out the door, you slam the door, you lock yourself in the room, whatever. So I feel like a lot of us are very emotional, really in touch with our sensitive side. I feel like you guys are Gen Zs, I'm assuming, or I assume you guys are on Gen Zs. You guys were born all after '96, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Gen Zs. All right. So you guys are so much more attached to your emotions, just because, and as crazy as it is, it's through social media. I didn't have social media when I was in college or high school. Twitter was the only thing that kind of was introduced to us, and Facebook when I was in college, and then Instagram existed after I graduated. So you guys have so much information given to you all at once, all the time. Media or social media, they're feeding you all kinds of news all around the world. You guys it's an open library of information that you guys are absorbing, and being aware of what's happening around the world. That's external stress for you guys, and it also develops your emotional mindset on feeling more empathy for things, and feeling like feeling more attached to certain things that you're not really a part of, but you feel for it. And I feel that's the hard thing that you guys, like your generation, has to go through, is that you guys, what's great is that you guys are very in touch with your emotion. But what's hard for to come across is the understanding of like when to control that emotion to not take over the best of you, right? And that's something that I talk to my mentees about is like emotional control, and understanding how you really feel and how you should actually communicate it without being angry or upset or yelling at somebody, and it's not suppressing emotion, right? It's about emotional control, because suppressing emotion is a very toxic thing to do. So that's for me to realize it, or going back to the question, was realizing when did I really come across this feeling was when I wanted to kind of like reconnect with my parents. If my parents didn't really support me in any way, they would kick me out of the house anyways, right?
Mhm.
If they hated me, I wouldn't be living inside the house. They would kick me out, right? So until you get to that point in life, which I personally don't know anybody within my film zones that got kicked out of their home, unless they kicked themselves out, or moved out, you say. It's something that that's the biggest struggle, is coming to understand your parents and their mindset, and to a point where you can both sit down at the table and talk and have a normal conversation without you blowing up. Because the first thing is, when you raise your voice, that's when your parents start raising their voice.
Right.
At first, your parents won't raise their voice at first. They'll sound very stern, and once you kind of just listen to them and kind of just throw your ego and your pride out the window, like, you start realizing kind of the struggles they have to go through just to raise your ass, So like either if you were an accident or not, like, they have you and they took that responsibility to raise you, to feed you, like the average cost of raising from 0 to 18 is like $1 million. So like, that's a lot of investment. So you kind of have to understand the appreciation that you are born. The chance that you are born is 0, So, and that's kind of pretty much when I started realizing it, is reconnecting with my parents. And that's kind of, I think, the biggest accomplishment I was able to do, was kind of understand my perspective of my parents. And once I understood that, my mindset was completely leveled out. And a lot of things changed in my life, where it was like, it just kind of changed reaction. Like, I started getting more clients. I was more happy. I was like, people, like, your energy, your vibe with people started to change. It was like, people started to like you more, and they wanted to work with you more, just because you're more happy. You're more, go lucky kind of person. And just a fun person to have on set, because you're not like stressed out in the corner, like feeling depressed or smoking a cigarette or whatever, e-cigarette, whatever you guys do, to be like less stressful, and have, stories to share and have conversations to share. That's what I felt like, that's the biggest thing that kind of set me, and like kind of uplifted me for the next, like, I don't know, whatever my career is now.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And, Ethan, you want to go?
Oh yeah. So when you landed your internship with the Far East movement, how did you do that? Was there like a job listing, or did you just cold email them? You're just like, hey, I want to work for you.
Right. And this is another thing we can go into talking about, is networking and connections, right? And if a lot of people out there are like, oh, I gotta be really talented at something, I gotta be really super skillful at something. I say yes or no, yes and no. The biggest thing is, and we hear it in Hollywood, it's a stereotype, is who do you know, right? Who do you know? And from that point, it's like, who do you know? And are you fun to working with? Are you like good energy? You're not gonna backstab somebody. You're trustworthy, right? You are willing to work beyond the normal work ethic of America, right? So a hard worker is pretty much what it is. And so in my school, my professor he has worked in many different industries. He was a vice president for Pepsi. He worked at Disney as an executive. He worked in many campaigns holding at like big corporations. And he started this organization on campus called American Marketing Association. And we would have these meetings every Monday during school week. And we would have different speakers come in from different industries. And one of the speakers that came in that when I was a freshman was this guy, I'm not gonna say his name, but the CEO of a small agency that was representing Far East at the time. And he kind of opened the internship door for a couple of students to apply. So we had, in a room of 65 people, I believe 15 people applied and only 2 got accepted. And I was one of the 2. So as a freshman, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I knew that hey, school is not the only thing that that can teach you, obviously. we kind of see in Asia where there's these mentorships and that these younger people follow to kind of guide them into a career path that they may like or may not like. So I kind of took the risk, and that risk kind of changed my life. Was kind of starting young, working for free at the time because of the internship, or school credit, sorry. And I was like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to learn whatever you guys teach me, So they didn't really make me no, it wasn't like some coffee runs, I'll make coffee and run papers. They kind of just sat me in front of the computer and said, what can you get? What can you do if I gave you all these toys, right? Or all these things, what would you do? And so my first thing was creating press kits, designing press kits for Far East and Jin at the time, Jin the rapper, if you guys know who he is. And I was just like, wait, these guys are Asian American. At the time when the guy came in and announced it, I had no idea who Far East was. Zero idea on Asian American artists, because we weren't really surrounded by it when we were growing up. We only had 50 Cent and Jay-Z and all the other guys, so there's no much Asian representation in media at the time besides YouTube. So I was like, Far East movement, all right, Asian hip hop's okay. We'll just take a listen. It wasn't bad at the time. It wasn't great, but I was like, yeah, this is a good start. This is cool. This is kind of seeing people who's older than me, kind of just paving the way for Asian Americans and Asians in general at the time. And I was like, all right, let's just give it a shot. So I started putting press kits and media decks together. And from there, they kind of helped me transition into doing artist management and logistics. So yeah, that was pretty much the gist of going into it, about just entertainment in general and seeing if it was the right choice or not.
To kind of switch things up, did you have a favorite project that you've ever worked on, or something that stood out to you?
There's a lot. Every project was some sort of a failure, in my opinion. There's something that's always a mistake made. There's never a project you ever do where you felt it's perfect, But everything I've done, even from college all the way till now, I don't know, everything is memorable. Everything I did taught me a lesson, right? So there's never a moment where even the crappiest project I did taught me something. And even that crappy project is still some of my favorite stuff. And to pinpoint all the things I've done, it's kind of hard to see to say which one's my favorite one. But the kind of kind of throwing stuff out there, if I can start way back, was I'd say my first biggest corporate one was doing the Tron promotional DVD release. And this is all through my professor, where Disney came in. This was a summer course or something like that. I did a summer course at my college. I went to Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. I did a summer course, and my professor brought in a bunch of Disney execs, which were picking our brains for free, and seeing what we could come up with for the Tron DVD release. So me and four of my team members, or there's four of us, right? So there's four of us in total. It was, I was kind of the creative of the group, and the other guys were the logistics and mathematical stuff for promotions for DVD releases and digital release. And I kind of created this DVD cover and design and layouts and stuff like that. Disney provided all the assets, so we kind of had everything that they gave us, and we were able to kind of draw and work stuff out. And so I made this promotional design plan with my team members for Tron 2 at the time, and Disney loved it and they ran with it. They chose our thing and they ran with all the stuff, and I was like, oh cool, and I look back at the design now, I'm like, oh my god, this is garbage. So but they loved it. They loved the idea. It was a thought that I liked, not how we kind of try to execute, because we're college students. I don't know how to rig big signs and LEDs and visual projections and stuff. I don't want to do that. I was just whatever I had that time. So I just drew it out and kind of explained everything in a very well-presented diagram. And that was what taught me kind of how to present in front of corporate people, And then from that, it taught me to be more professional. It's not just being an artist and being creative, but understanding how to communicate with people you know. When I was younger, I couldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. I'll be super nervous. I wouldn't know what to say, right? I'll be lost in words and just stuttering all the time. And I felt like through every time I took a risk and leap, because growing up, I was introverted. And now I've kind of forced myself to be extroverted just due to the fact that I've worked in the entertainment industry. And it's just that you just have to be super social and like understand how to talk to people and how to connect with people. And these vocabularies, these words and terms that are coming out of my mouth, I wouldn't even speak like this if I was like still introverted, you know? Right. And because of myself taking that leap, I kind of stepped out of my comfort zone, and now I'm able to talk to you guys here, you know? So, and through that, JK and Wang Fu and all the other people I've worked with kind of helped me find courage in myself and develop myself in some form of way. And my friends that outside of, you know, the entertainment industry I asked them for like what they felt and stuff like that too, and what it was. And like, everybody's like, it's always a learning lesson for me. It was like, what can I do for myself that I can make myself stand out from others, you know, besides just my talent? Because if you're super talented, you're like, you have you're like the best cinematographer, the best like designer in the world, but you don't talk to anybody, then how the heck are you gonna get a job?
Right? Yeah.
So yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like, cool, I've met so many talented artists, but they're not fun to work with. So so yeah, that's the biggest lesson was that. And then hopping on other projects that taught me a lot of stuff was like failures. I've done a lot of stuff with JK that I failed on, like tons of projects we did, you know, like a small, like everybody made mistakes, you know, not just me, like everyone had mistakes, and we all learned as a team to kind of like, okay, cool. Like, this is how they communicate. This is how I am able to talk to them, and kind of learn how to talk to different types of personalities and understand like how they communicate, and, become a people's person, you know, like, and learn how to compromise on certain things without being upset or like super ego or prideful about a certain subject, and try to bring light to a situation without hurting people's feelings, you know. And I feel like that's every project I did when I graduated college, was working with JK and Wang Fu. Was like, we were always like butting heads in some form of way, but we were all learning from it too. We were all learning about ourselves. We were learning about each other, and how to work as a unit, you know. And that's the biggest lessons, was not the creative process, not being being innovative. It was literally being a people's person in relationship building and understanding each other.
Yeah, totally.
So when you do have like mistakes, either like your mistakes or someone else's, how do you extract the lesson from that without feeling bad about yourself, or like, or yeah, like feeling bad about yourself? Because I do think that is a skill.
Right. So I feel like it depends on how you analyze the situation, right? You can't tell everybody to analyze the situation the same way, but it's practice through time. Personally, I never had a feeling where if I failed in something, like I put myself down. I can never think of that, just because my brain never functioned in that way. But for people who felt like, and these for everybody out there that felt like, hey, like I failed in something, I feel depressed because I failed in something, either through a breakup or through like, you messed up on a scene, or you stumbled on something, you messed the entire scene, like anything, it can be anything, right? It's that, okay, what did I learn from this? Right? Is this going to make me a better person? Am I leveling up the next day? Right? Because every failure you do, the purpose is to move forward from that. Right? It is to grow from that situation and understand, okay, cool. The next time I do something, the next time I'm in this situation, how am I going to handle this? Right? And I'm preparing myself to handle whatever situation comes at me better than before. Right? So you don't want to fall yourself into like, say like, okay, I made this mistake, I'm never going to do this again, and I'm going to put myself, you know, down, because at the end of the day, if you make yourself depressed, I feel like it's almost a waste of time. But at the same time, I feel like some people need to go through that downer to kind of bounce back up. Right?
Yeah.
And I can't speak for everybody, right? So for me, like understanding, some people take depression or sadness differently. And through my, like with my, most, like all my friends that I've worked with, like we all share the same energy. So when we're down, like there's never a moment where we're down for like a long time period. We'll know if someone's sad, right? But they know how to bounce up, or when you're working with a client, you're not, personally bringing your emotional, stuff onto set or whatever. But for us, it's like the best, I feel like the best way to kind of overcome these things is asking yourself, like, what can I do that's better, right? What can I learn from this lesson, and how can I make the best of the situation, right? And move myself forward from that point. And it's okay to feel sad. Tell yourself that. It's fine, right? It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel depressed for the time being. Sometimes you just gotta yell at the wall, or break stuff. I don't know, whatever it is to release stress for yourself. But without bringing harm to yourself. So the biggest concern that we all have for each other is like, don't harm yourself in the process of trying to bounce back up, right? So I feel like for a lot of us, it's more important for self-care, right? Self-love in a way where you understand your emotional being, and make sure that your emotional status would not affect your personal health. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the biggest thing for everybody to learn, was like how to balance that out. And there's no right answer for that, right? Because everybody, I'm not a therapist. I'm not I'm not a doctor to tell you the right answer. And personally, to me, there is no right answer for every individual, because every individual has their own math formula and how you guys function, right? So we can't say, oh, if it works for this person, it works for this person. It doesn't work that way. So the only way you can do is emotionally connect with somebody, and in hopes and being supportive of somebody and seeing them rise from their down.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that mindset of seeing failures is more of a learning lesson. That's like, it's so easy to talk about, yet so hard, like even for like, especially for me to like have to go through. And I feel like when you have that mindset, literally nothing can harm you. You feel so free, because like failures don't scare you, like accomplishments don't scare you, of course. So there's nothing at all that could, you realize that there's nothing at all that could break you down. What, like you said before, there may be some failures that make you cry, and it's okay to cry for a few, like maybe like a few hours or a few days, but and like it's nothing's gonna like truly like break you down. I think that's such a strong mindset to have in life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That I agree with that. So just make sure nothing really breaks you down. And if you feel like you are reaching to a point where like you're losing hope in like what you've done, like speak to somebody, like talk to someone. I feel like the more you talk, the more you're able to kind of let your emotions come out. I feel that that's important. If it's not your parents or your cousins, not your cousins, your neighbor, who cares? Your dog, talk to your animal, whatever it is that can help you cope with the situation at the time being.
Yeah.
Right.
And like it's like a lot of people, like even me, like I've gone through depression. Like I've always had this common I guess response when I feel sad, to like kind of hide it in. Even now, having to go through depression and like learning from all these past mistakes and all that stuff. But like I just realized, like the more you like hide it in, it's eventually gonna come out. And like the more you like hold it in, and like the longer you do it, the bigger the explosion is gonna be.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if like, for example, for yourself, it's like, yeah, you realize that, which is great. It's self-realization too, right? And that's the biggest step, is understanding, like, you're aware of your actions, you're aware of what you're doing, and seeking help in some form of way, or self-help in some form of way, it is a good step to kind of overcome those scares, those moments of depression. And I think, and I have a coworker who struggles with depression. Even he has the best job in the world. Like, to this day, I personally don't know how it feels, right, to that degree, but I understand how to be supportive and kind of uplift, my coworker, and knowing that when he needs, or when she needs a break, right, or when you need a breather, kind of to tell them, hey, step away, like we'll handle the rest, just take a breather, and we can catch up later, So understand, moments when to breathe, because a lot of us forget to breathe, And it's not, oh, let me smoke a e-cig or like vape to breathe. That's not the purpose of it. I feel like there's many other ways. And even before, like before e-cigs and vaping and all this other type of stuff, there's many other methods of, meditation, right? So, health choices too, but that's a whole different discussion about being healthy and mindset, because that also affects everything you do, being healthy. Now I'm not talking about eating, but kind of meditation, and meditation is not about you just sitting there quiet for X amount of hours or time, but knowing when to breathe, take a breath here and there, step up, stretch, right? And can come back and doing something, So that's the thing that a lot of us forget to do, especially I think for Americans, is knowing when to like step up and like walk away, and come back at it and really revisit it, because like we're so like, I just want to get it done and finish it, but you're like, you end up just piling more like trash on top of yourself and you don't really know what to do. So like it's best you guys to step away, take a breather, stretch, make a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you got to do, and then anything that's like a stress reliever, it's cooking, cool. It's playing with Legos. I don't know what you guys do. So like, it's just kind of step away and time manage, understand like what you're, how much time you're spending on something.
Right. Yeah. I think that's good advice for relieving stress. Going back to the mindset you talked about, looking at failures as like constantly improving. Do you have any tips for anyone watching on how to develop that mindset? Because I know it can be really difficult to put yourself like in that mindset.
In that shoes, right? So that mindset is something that's developed over time, I believe. I felt like I don't remember much, but I felt like I did go through that process of overcoming these failures, and it was knowing the fact of, if you are willing to learn and to progress yourself, and your objective is pretty much to better yourself every day, right? And that will, and this comes to discipline, right? And a lot of us feel like is not knowing when to apply discipline, right? And being disciplined is the practice and training yourself, right? It's always that young monk going to the temple and wanting to go in and train with the Shaolin master, but he sits outside forever and ever until the Shaolin master lets him in, right? Is that discipline? How much do you desire and how much do you want something, right? If you desire something that much, you would do anything to become that next person or that next, version of yourself, the next, like, Goku going to the next level, that kind of thing. It's like, Goku, that's the best analogy, is Goku, he trains all the time, even though he's a terrible father. He trains all the damn time, right? So then make sure he's like the next best level himself, as a fighter, right? So you can speak for any athlete too, Kobe, or Jay-Z, or anybody that's in the game, how Kanye is always reinventing his music, or like anybody that's up there as an artist or as an athlete. We're always constantly training and putting ourselves mentally and physically and emotionally, leveling everything up, right? And that might sound super intense for people, like, oh my God, I can't be Goku. Oh my God, I can't be Kobe. But what you can share is the mindset they have, right? Because we're all built, all humans, we all have the same DNA to understand or break down information differently. But to emotionally connect to somebody, we share, and maybe if you don't have empathy, I understand that too, but to understand yourself and say, hey, I want to be better. So how can I make myself better? Right? You ask yourself that question. Like, how can I improve myself? Right? And sometimes there might not be an exact answer for it, but you know that, hey, I want to reach this. There's nothing stopping me to reach this. Right? Totally. So, and that's the self-confidence that's built over time, right? And now self-confidence is not something that we all have. It's something that can be developed for sure. I wasn't that self-confident when I was younger. I was pretty like super passive and kind of let the other person kind of outshine me in class. I was like always the quiet one. I wasn't always wanted to be, hey, like I got a great idea, or hey, I want to speak in front of the class. Oh, I want to raise my answer and answer the question that the teacher calls. I wasn't that kid. I was shy as F. And as over time, as you develop as an artist and you start showing, or anything, it doesn't have to be an artist, it can be anything. As you progress in your craft, right, or whatever you do, that kind of brings that definition to what you are. Like if you're a samurai, you're a samurai, right? If you're an aerospace engineer, you're an aerospace engineer. If you're an astronaut, you're an astronaut. You're a doctor, you're a doctor, right? So as you progress and showcase their craft and whatever career path you might have interest in, that self-confidence will show. It will show, especially when you train, when you keep training at it. You might be the best at the time, but you'll become good in someone's eyes for sure. And someone will still praise you for what you do, because they'll praise you the fact that you're taking the risk to become a better person. They'll praise you the fact of, hey, I'm able to talk to my parents. I have a stronger connection with my parents now. They'll praise you for the fact of almost everything. They'll praise you that you have a house, you have a room. You're able to drink and eat. You're able to have all these things that many kids in this world don't have. And that's coming civilization. Hey, I have a lot of things that a lot of people out there don't have, and they would want to have. They definitely would take my place in life anytime, right? And that's just being grateful, right? That you are here and that you have the ability to level up. So why waste it?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I kind of became more confident in what I did, without me being and staying humble at the same time. Is not overcoming the pride and ego that may develop over time. And be I think for all young boys, we all go through a pride and ego thing with anything. It can be anything, phase in our life. And there's a moment where a friend will call you out for your shit, for hey, you're being an ass. So be aware of what you do and kind of and help that guidance you as a person to be kind and move forward, right? And
having that balance. Yeah,
exactly, having that balance. So that's kind of my quick tip. It's not really an advice or anyway. I'm not no therapist to tell you what to do, but that's my experience and how I kind of overcame my shyness and my myself and develop my self-confidence in doing whatever I can do,
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Sorry, this is completely switches the topic, but I'm super curious. So one of my videographer friends, he told me that, so I think he goes to, right now he's currently going to Cal State Fullerton, and he's taking film classes, right? And he told me that when he went into that class, he didn't really learn anything from that. He actually learned more doing stuff on his own. And can you share some of your experiences with that as well?
Okay. I never took a film class in my entire life.
Oh, really?
Never.
Whoa.
Not a single class. Oh, no.
Oh, man.
It really depends on the professor you have, right? I can't speak for schools because not every school has great professors and not every professor is great, right? So it really depends on who you have and who's willing to teach you, right? Right. So I was very fortunate. For example, my marketing professor, he worked in the industry, right? He's held tons of executive positions, did the work, right? And is retired from that and now is teaching. So that shows you the case of his experience and why he's taught and why he's teaching, because he learned so much and now he wants to give it to the next generation.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing with wherever school you go to. If the professor didn't really, for film, they've never really been on set. Yeah. Then what experience is he or she sharing with you besides a textbook? Right? Yeah. And a textbook is very generic. It doesn't really tell you how to apply the terminologies to do things. It's just theory, right? And theory, I can talk about theory all day. There's no right or wrong in theory. So it's really what you really apply outside of your classroom these days. And I can't speak for Ivy Leagues and prestigious schools because they have a different system, right? But for Cal States and public school systems and all, our education system here, and I don't want to talk trash or anything, but it's not the best. it's not the best for anyone, because education out here is like zero. It's garbage. My apologies, but it's not like, it doesn't help students lead and learn how to take on critical thinking. It's literally telling people how to press buttons, right? And follow a assembly line workflow. So that's the unfortunate thing of how our system's set up. Even though we're paying thousands of dollars to say, expect that this degree is going to land me a gig or a job, it's like, that's wrong. That is completely BS.
And
right? Unless you're, unless you are going to become a doctor or an engineer, or a lawyer, you have all these, you need that kind of stuff, right? So school, like for this, if you're an artist, you don't need to go to school.
So then for people who do want to pursue art, what should their next step be? Like I don't want to go into like film or like graphic design.
Right. So that's the biggest. Either, hey, do I want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, probably your parents' money, or you're working 3 jobs or 2 jobs to support yourself through college, to put yourself to learn fundamentals, which is important, and theory of design and art? Would you spend that extra $1,000, or can I just learn shadowing somebody who's working in the industry, or watch YouTube videos? You guys, it's such a big thing. There's so much things on the internet that's for free now that's giving you different techniques. There's so many solutions to one answer. Like, it's just crazy how things work these days, and like how much information is floating for free on the web, right?
And I feel like there's some things that are better taught in the classroom, like math, science,
right.
But for like the creative, different kind of subjects that aren't taught in school, it might not be like the best option for you to go to school and try to pursue that. Like doing it on your own might be more beneficial. Like practicing it might be better. Like for videography, for example, I feel like me going outside and shooting a video could be way more helpful than me sitting in class watching a professor tell me how to do it. So there's also that other side though, where if I want to be a scientist, like going into class and doing like the labs in class would be more helpful than me just watching YouTube videos and teaching myself. So
of course.
I think a common thread throughout a lot of careers and different passions and paths of life is the value of experience in your respective field. So if college brings you more experience through labs, internships, or like just like medical field, you need information. But if it's videography or some creative, and these colleges don't provide you that resource or that experience, then it's not very helpful.
Right, correct. You're definitely correct about that. So if there was a rating system of finding the best professors, let's do that, that was willing to teach you those right things, right? So like I said earlier, when we go into these fields of college is not meant for everybody, but college is important too, right? It's the pressure of going to college, right? If it's through the pressure of your parents wanting you to have that piece of degree, do you value your parents, authority, and respect your parents to finish the degree just to get it over with, versus you and them paying for your college too, and you taking, and utilizing that time to, like, if my parents are paying for my college, why not? I'm going to learn whatever else, that I can develop, right? So there are many ways that we can go through life understanding what is the best route for me to learn, right? And to answer your friend's question about, is film school like the best choice, is like, it's a yes or no. It depends on the professor, right? If you say that you're going to film school, you're going to a trade school, which is a lot of money. I guarantee you'll walk away with a lot of experience, but you'll also walk away with a lot of debt. So that's the whole thing, is that what if, for example, somebody in the middle of nowhere, middle America, has no connections, has no idea where to talk to people, their only option is these trade schools or going to college, or flying. Hey, no, I'm gonna go to college in Cali or Los Angeles, because that's the only way I can meet people. Right. I got to be on set. So to say like most of the people in LA that's in film, most of the people that are here in film are not even from LA or just OC in general. They're from like Minnesota or like Texas or like Alabama, Minnesota, etc. You know, like there's like they're not from here. They're like wet. They get like East Coast, like coming over here pursuing entertainment as chasing their passion or dream or whatever they do in hopes that they can make it out here. You know, and they're the ones who work harder, in my opinion, because they're taking the risk. Yeah, they're taking the risk of like, I'm packing all my stuff, selling whatever I got, and I got to do this. Is this or nothing? You know. So
and it's like that mindset where like you have nothing at all, so it's like you're doing it to survive.
Right.
Completely different mindset.
Right.
Like,
Right.
well, like some of us in like OC are, yes, we may be pursuing something, but at the end of the day, we might be living in like our parents' house, or like we still don't have to really care about like money and like having to find our own like like finance. Well, these people are coming and trying to survive. It's like
So like there's other ways. I talked to a few of my mentees about like how can I create the responsibility for myself, right? And kind of show my parents like I want to feel more responsible, right? So maybe sit down with your parents and, hey, like I want to learn how to pay for rent. I want to kind of take care of myself, kind of like understand how I can give back, like provide for yourself without your parents being 100% involved in your life. Right. Yeah. And that's a kind of weird situation or weird conversation to bring up with your parents, because like, you live in our house, like why can't we take care of you? You know, we love you. Why is that like, why are you making this like a deal? You want to move out? Why you want to move out? You know, so so it's just a strange situation to be in.
And I think that's also such a great privilege that we have, that we're able to explore like something we love and that we might not pursue in the future, but we don't have to worry about not having food to eat, not having a place to stay.
Yeah, especially as teens, we still have the safety net of our parents. If we go out there and like fail at whatever we do, we're still gonna have a place to sleep at night.
The bird nest effect, man. So like the thing is that effect is so comforting behind the back of your head that there shouldn't be any reason for failing. Like any reasons of like a failure is easy to do. There's nothing wrong with it, right?
Yeah, you should just go for it, because if you end up failing, it's fine. Like you can pick yourself up. It's not like you can't survive.
Right.
But sometimes like the opposite happens, since we have the safety net, then all of a sudden there's no sense of urgency. You know, if I don't do anything, I'll still survive. So like all the motivation just goes out the window because there's no survival in mind.
Yeah. So you gotta keep in mind that, hey, this is the same mindset and mentality you want to have for the next 10 years, 20 years, you know, when you're outside of your parents' home, right? When you do have to pay for rent, when you do have to pay for the bills, when you do have a mortgage, etc., when you do raise a family, if that's something that you value, right? It's like, where is the next responsibility for yourself, right? And I ask you guys, the first, like, most important thing I want you guys to ask yourself is what do you value the most, right? What do you value the most in life at this time? And this answer will change. It will change as you get older. It will change. Who knows? You might stick with the same answer because it's just, that's how you are. But it will change. Like, what do you value, right? And what do you see? Can you see yourself doing this for the next 20 years, 30 years, right? This might be like, oh God, Tommy, we just live at the moment. You know, screw it, whatever. It's like, what is important to ask yourself that? Because you guys are the next generation of leaders in our community, right? Next generation of creatives, next generation of doctors, next generation of, of humans in our society, where we're going to take the next step, the next level to develop whatever you want to develop. And that's the real responsibility to take on. And if you are just going to kind of just say, well, I don't care, then all right. There shouldn't be any complaint coming from you. But if you want to see progression in yourself and the people around you, you're going to have to level up, right? So, and it's, I don't want you guys to think about this and become like extra stress for yourself. Like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do next 10 years? Is this left for me? It's like, no, man. Like, the journey that you guys take, right? Whatever journey you take, bad or good, it's all going to teach you something. The tragedies, the drama that you may go through, the things that you want to avoid because you've learned from your mistakes, the things that you that you develop over time are all gonna be part of making you you.
Right.
Right. So don't take anything for granted, and don't no regrets, man. It's like make sure that whatever you do will make some of it strong impact in your life, and whatever steps you guys do make, have fun doing it. Just have fun doing it. Don't be like, oh, I can do it next time, because sometimes there might not be a next time, you know.
Right.
So just give it your best at everything you do.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm looking at your the answers to the screen questions that Trung sent you, and you talked about one of your accomplishments, launching a studio called, I don't know if I Petite Oki.
Petite Oki? Oh, right.
So is that the first business that like you founded, or?
Oh, no. That's Petite Oki was something I started with my girlfriend. So we it was something that it was like kind of her original idea. And if you guys look up Petite Oki, it's petite and oki. It's a different take in creative arts. And it's more of her visuals that kind of inspired and kind of expanded my color palette, in style. When you're an artist, that's one thing, is that you have a unique style. But when you become a professional, you understand how to do everything, right? And you understand the elements, you understand the meanings, the everything, the intention, everything that involves in human nature boils down to what you create, right? And there's always an intent or a meaning behind what you do, right? So I'm not talking about those art pieces in museums where hung up there and you're like, okay, well, that means something to you. Like, no, ignore those. I'm talking about like what it means to yourself, right? And if people like it or not. So this little studio that my girlfriend started, and now I'm kind of helping her. I'm so sorry, my phone. That me and my girlfriend are now running. We kind of shoot like products for a lot of clients. It's very hipster, Urban Outfitters kind of vibe, and that's like what people are into. It's like the trend at this time, and it's like almost, but like a twist of her style into it, which makes it more unique from the others. So and then from there, it's just us reaching out, or people referring to our studio and kind of like passing the word on and wanting to work with us. So it's not what you see much on Instagram, because I'm assuming a lot of you guys are into hypebeast and like moody stuff and stuff like that. Just because, you boys are you boys, what the trend is, are travel vloggers, and hyperlapse and crazy shit like that. It's not in that realm for sure. So you guys will never see this kind of stuff come across your feed. But outside of your phone, this whole world exists of like big corporations, and that's where the big money is. But that's also, something that's fun to do, and it's a different type of like art that we can always develop in, and hey, like I actually know how to do that. I know how to like that. I know how to I understand the colors. I understand how to design or art direct a scene or a place or an object or a product to present commercially, not just IG, because in a day, you don't want to be just an Instagram photographer, right? So, because being an Instagram photographer or Instagram videographer doesn't really pay the bills at all. Right? Yeah, even though that's like where it brings you the clout, and it brings you the hype, and it brings you all this other stuff. Like, it's all about the clout, how many likes I got. So it's not about that, but hey, like, do you, man? Like, if that's the thing you want to focus on, building your social media and stuff like that, all for it, man. Do it. But yeah, once you get older, you understand, hey, like, there's more, this, you can make a lot more money doing all kinds of stuff, not just social media, So that's kind of the studio my girlfriend runs, is Petite Oki. The petite is little, because my girlfriend, she's kind of petite, and then Oki means big in Japanese, Oki. So it's like little big studio.
Hey, that's actually such a cool name.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Oki and then petite. So it's like it was a fun little wordplay, and then people kind of just fell in love with my girlfriend's style, and throughout time, people started like contacting her for more work, and now her work's been like featured on like Hype Bay and like Urban Outfitters and all kinds of stuff. So she's like, it's super cool. It's just dope to see that, like, hey, people actually like your work. And before that, my girlfriend, she was working at, like, before she started this agency, or this little studio, she was working at a design agency, like not regular 9 to 5. And it was safe for her. There was not much stress, you know? And then when we started dating, I kind of like asked her, like, what do you, like, is this something you want to do? And it's like, no, I actually want to do other stuff besides just working for this agency. And I was like, well, just kind of just do stuff on your own and see how it goes. Like, what? No, that's so scary. No way. Right? And I was like, just try it. Who knows? Like, honestly, you don't have to commit 100% yet. Just like give it a shot here and there, you know, kind of like work on it during the weekends or work on it when you get home, you know, instead of you watching dramas or whatever you or going out drinking or whatever, you know, like whatever it is. Spend some time developing other skill sets, right? It's okay to play video games here and there. It's okay to like luxury, like lay back and not do nothing. It's okay to sleep in, but kind of like understand when you want to use your time wisely and like develop other skill sets and do different things, or learn how to plant or grow mangoes, because that's what I'm doing right now. So quarantine life. Yeah, it's just like random shit. Just pick up different hobbies and just try it on the side as you're developing one, but always have a focus, one focus that your craft is like, that's your, you know, bread and butter. And then like for fun, the stress relievers, you know, you don't want to become, you don't want your bread and butter to become a burden on you. You don't want it to become like mundane and boring. So like step away when you know it's time, step away, do something else a little bit and come back at it. So anyways, back to my girlfriend, she has a studio and that's kind of what it is. But the first thing I started was Formula Arts. That was my first studio I started. And that was through me meeting a bunch of people from Cerritos on a Wong Fu set. And we started Formula Arts. So
I have a question. So I'm like the resident K-pop stan on this team. So I gotta ask.
Oh my God. Here we go.
How did you meet Amber Liu? And like, what's it like working with her? Yeah.
Amber, I met Amber back in 2012 or 13. Can't remember, one of those years. So my ex-girlfriend at the time had a classmate who went to the same high school as her, and he somehow reappeared in this area and wanted to catch up. And we caught up, and we get to know that he was part of a label or music production group out in Korea, and he produces for Amber and the rest of her homegirls, FX at the time. And he wanted to introduce us to her, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then I noticed that with Amber, it was actually a local, and she actually went to school with another friend of mine. Right. I was like, what a small world. So I was like, oh, cool, yeah. Like this is the K-pop industry that I was somewhat familiar with, because like before Amber, I did work with other Korean artists, but it wasn't FX at the time. It was like a different label, or SM at the time. It was a different Korean label at the time. So I was very educated on the Korean pop artist culture stuff. So yeah, cool. I'll meet her. And then when I met Amber, it was I don't know, normal. Just like meeting anybody else. It's like me talking to you guys. It's like this, you know, like just super cool, casual, you know, she's another normal human being like everybody else. And it was really dope to kind of see artists outside of what people idolize them as, right? Yeah. You view them as like just, hey, here's another homie, you know, like in our realm, and you're doing what you're doing, you know, as an artist.
Oh, that's dope, yeah.
Yeah, so you say like you're meeting her, she's like a normal person, right? But have you ever had those moments where like, dang, I met this person? Like we were talking to Anthony Lee the other day, and he said he met Jackie Chan.
All right.
So have you had any of those moments?
Biggest idol I've met in like fanned over. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to go back. Like there's a lot. There's like I've been like. Just because I felt like because I worked in entertainment and I've been behind the scenes where you see so many celebrities go like back and forth or like have a quick conversation or shake your hand, that it kind of just goes over your head. Like, I'm working today and I'm not a fan. It's weird. It's just like, okay, so hold on. Like, I'm trying to go back to a moment where like, oh, all right. So I was at a pizzeria in Melrose area. It's like in LA, near Culver City. And I sit down with a couple of my friends and we're eating. And then in the back door walks this big old dude with glasses. And then behind him is a bunch of other artists, a female artist. And she comes in and it's dark as F in there, so nobody can see shit, right? And they sit down to the table next to me. And my friends are like, they're frozen. And my back's facing the other people. And I'm like, what, you guys okay? they like my friend lifted up his fork and like look behind you. And I was like, and it's Beyonce. And I was like, oh, it just threw me off for a second. It just threw me off. It was Beyonce, yeah, DJ Khaled, and it was Jay-Z wasn't there. Who was it? Can't remember. I think DJ Snake or somebody else. I can't remember. But it was the only people that stood out was DJ Khaled and Beyonce. And I was like, oh shit, that's cool. And I just looked over and that was it. And then we had a quick 3-4 sentence like discussion about if the food was good here or some shit like that. And then that was it. And then you're like, oh, you guys have a good night. But at that moment, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was shocked. But at the same time, I felt like I was shocked because it threw me off because I wasn't working. You know? But that's like the only time I ever ran into a celebrity outside of my work zone that my mindset's completely different. You know? So like there's just moments where like, if you guys ever remember like Lady Gaga wearing this meat dress,
right?
You guys are probably young, but I was there when I met her. It smelled like shit, but whatever. Like, I walked right past her in the middle of the hallway, and it didn't faze me. I was like, oh, I was like, it was good. That was it. That came out of my mouth, and that was like that. I felt like because I was in the realm of like doing production, it wasn't like, hey, like, I'm a big fan of yours and everything. Like, but to me, like every artist that we see as like top celebrities or whatever, like I find them as like inspirations of like, I don't see them as gods, you know, I don't see them as like, as these higher beings, but like people who paved the way for the next generation of people to become, you know, like whoever it is. Like if I'm going to be next Tommy Trinh, I'm going to be next Tommy Trinh, right? But I don't know. It's up to how I want to pave it. So I saw them as like, you're a big inspiration to my work, you know? So no matter what, like I find inspirations in anything. Like I find inspirations in Taylor Swift, even though I'm listening to her music. Well, I find a lot of inspiration in Kanye West. So I find a lot of inspirations in even in politicians. So, and even in doctors and astronauts, like there's always something that applies what they do to my work. And it really is the mindset that they share, the philosophies they share, right? It's not always about the art they make or what they have accomplished, but what they kind of set for you to kind of live almost a free life, uplifting life, a motivating lifestyle.
Oh,
yeah.
So wait, so I'm super curious. So when you watch like movies, are you that type of person that like looks at it but doesn't really care about the plot, but they just see like the cinematography and like the effects and all that?
No. I'll go into Michael Bay and I'm like, I'm here for the explosions. You know, like everything's like, oh, he's a film guy, he's gonna ruin the movie, or like they're gonna analyze it so differently from us. It's like, man, no. She's like I'm gonna go in there, have a great time. You know, if they have, you know, a couple of snacks and drinks or whatever, I'll have some. Enjoy the moment, the shit show that it might be. Who knows? I have a fun time watching it. And at the same time, if I want to watch it again, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna break down the music. I'm gonna break down the cinematography. I'm gonna break down the coloring. I'm gonna break down the shot, the composition. I'm gonna break down, and that's when I start dissecting it. But the first time I go to watch a movie, it's all about the fun. It is. Don't ruin it for yourself. Try to make it like your career. Like oh, that's a bad cut. Oh, I saw that mistake. Continuity problem. Like, man, who cares? Let's just have fun with it the first time. Like, enjoy if it's a fun ride the first, because you gotta come in with the mindset of like, the general public is not gonna go in there and start nitpicking a movie. You know, like if you want to make a good movie, it's about how you connect with people, right? If you want to make a movie about fast cars and babes and girls and explosions and like define physics like Fast and Furious, like. Make that movie. Have quick entertainment like that. It's not the best story. It's a terrible storyline. The shittiest type.
This is true.
Yeah. It's like the number one like franchise in the world when it comes to movies, but the terrible plot across every movie. Shitty. It doesn't make any sense, but it's fun to watch. You know, it's not like you're not going there like I'm not watching it because there's a shitty storyline. Like
yeah, like
don't be a party pooper. You know.
Right.
Watch like the fast cars everywhere and then them like jumping into each other.
Yeah, you're not there for the story. Who the hell's there for the story?
Right.
You know, the crew's there to have fun. The crew's like, we're flipping cars today. Like, hell yeah. You know, like you're not gonna like screw the plot line. You know, let's have fun with it. Each movie has a purpose. You know, you watch there for a art flick, watch for the art flick. You're there to watch explosions, watch for the explosions. You know?
So what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? Oh man. So still to today, I think Rogue One from Star Wars is my favorite. Just because this is biased because I am a Star Wars fan. And making sci-fi is expensive, and I don't think until that day, I'll probably make a sci-fi when I'm like 50 or something. But it's expensive to do, especially when you want to do it right. But I think Star Wars Rogue One is one of my favorite ones, just because there's a lot more connection to it than the other Star Wars I've watched.
Yeah.
But besides that, outside of the whole, you know, super futuristic and outside of like the crazy visual effects, one of my favorite movies is Booksmart by Olivia Wilde. As it follows these two girls who go to high school and go and transition into college. And it's just a simple storyline. This storyline can apply to boys or girls growing up in your generation, my generation, if I was going through high school. And it was so relatable, no matter what it was. It was like the struggles and the simplicity of human nature that we go through, and the comedy and the clever writing behind it. And so if you guys ever have a chance to watch Booksmart by Olivia Wilde, I take a stab at it. I showed it to a bunch of my boys and they loved it. It was such a clever movie. Another one is Moonlight. That's simple too. Now, as you can see, a lot of these films are not action-packed, not a lot of explosions, but just slice. I'd say a slice of life in a way, and connecting with our human nature, right? And then outside of beautiful storylines, we have, I don't know, there's tons. I can list you forever, like things that challenge your mindset, like Children of Men. That's one of my favorite movies. A lot of these movies I can list for days. I can catalog tons of movies I enjoy, and each one has. I always walk away with something from each movie, and it's. I feel like there's so much art and like meaning behind every film that you watch, even Fast and Furious, as ridiculous as that sounds. You walk away with and like feeling some sort of emotion.
Mm-hmm. Right. I saw some of the work that you did for Anime Impulse. How did you get into the anime industry?
Anime. So I've been in the anime. I haven't watched a lot of new anime stuff. I never watched Bleach. I never watched Naruto.
Too long.
No. One Piece. I know all these animes. I'm familiar with the characters. I never watched Demon Slayer yet. But I loved anime growing up. It was because of anime that I got into Star Wars. So I watched Macross was the first thing I watched when I was a kid. And Macross, you guys probably know as Robotech. It's pretty much like a different version of Gundam. But I grew up watching that, like 1980s cartoons, and then it was a sci-fi realm that they had on VHS sold, and my cousins gave it to me. Or my nanny at the time, or my babysitter, had a son who was watching the show, and he gave me the VHSs to watch it. And I kind of threw my interest into like motion pictures, animation stuff. And that's, opening up to film. But anime, going back to Anime Impulse, I host this event called Anime Impulse. I'm not just somebody that shoots for Anime Impulse. I run and organize the event myself with my team members. I got into it just because, like, my friends are like, "You like anime, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you want to do an anime convention with us?" And I'm like, "All right." so that kind of happened. And you're like, "What? Like, Tommy does all these crazy things. Like, what does he not do?" For me, when it came to events, that was my strongest key, because I kind of studied it and learned it through working with Far East, and organizing, planning, structuring it, all the paperwork that comes behind it. That's what kind of led me through the events production realm, and it was just not, hey, we're just gonna host a anime convention. The interest sparked me too, the fact of, hey, I get to see voice actors, I get to see people that spend a lot of time making cosplays and how much effort they put into it. Right. There's so much art behind that too, Like, I get to see people go 100% into their craft and show up to an event for like a couple of days and show it off. Like, that's, I was like, that's cool. Like, some of these people spend a whole year making this cosplay, or these voice actors spend their entire life getting a role in this game or in this anime. Like, why not, connect this realm of film and anime together, and all this stuff, and costume design, pretty much is cosplay, right? Yeah. And see what people can bring out. And surprisingly, like, I met and connected with so many people just doing this event. So, like, yeah, that was a kind of my realm in anime.
Yeah, when I was researching on you, that it stood out to me because my sister actually works for AX. So I saw it and I was like, oh, like another person working in the anime con industry.
Right.
It's dope because, like, it's anime is a hobby for some people, but there's always someone behind the convention, behind like the animation, behind everything. So, like, it's a hobby for some and it's a job for others. Like, you can actually, there's money in the industry.
So I remember, so you were talking about, I guess, like, voice actors and like these cosplays and how much time it takes that people really don't notice. And I think that's so relatable to editing, and like
That's true, yeah.
It's like these like 1 second effects can like just take so long. Like, what was the longest, how, like, maybe like the longest project, and like how long it took you?
Oh, okay. Dang. There's projects where I can't speak for some because just NDA stuff, but there are projects where it was a year-long process.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of post work. So there's where I'm like, I'm not chief editor, but I'm like executive chief editor, not executive chief editing assistant, where I'm overlooking the entire, film, and we're like sitting back there going through all the all the footage and the timeline, and we're seeing it being changed constantly, due to the fact of, hey, like, they can only do this here, if we release it in this country, they're not allowed to have this kind of thing. So there's a lot of like gray areas where there'll be projects that just sit in limbo just because of politics, of the film industry. So there's projects where they sit on the shelf for like 3 years, 2 years, not edited. Just been edited, but not fully completed due to the fact of they want to reshoot something. They want to add it into the scene, right? So I can't speak for all films, but like major films, or like there's even like for films that are sorry, we just talk about editing. For editing, like, there's films that sit on shelves, not for me, but like my friends who work at the super big studios, where like, we've been editing this for like 2 years already, So there's films, and that's like working with major players like, you know, J.J. Abrams or like James Cameron. Like they have heavy effects, right? And there's a lot of stuff because they have to release movies internationally, and internationally comes with a lot of red tape. So there's a lot of cuts that need to be taken out, and they have to restructure the edit to make sense. So sometimes when you watch movies, you're like, why did this make? It doesn't make any sense. And the name attached to it really big is because there's shitty politics behind it. So yeah, personally myself, there's been like my longest one, which I can't speak for yet. It's like a year. It's been a year. It's just sitting there, and we can't really do anything with it. And it's just because it kind of fell in time to like COVID. So yeah, even this, like speaking of COVID, like I was supposed to be in Asia for like 6 months. I should be in Asia right now, filming for a film, a feature film, and we're expected to delay till like next year, maybe longer. We're not sure, but we were greenlit. We had the budget, everything was signed, contracts were signed. No one knew that we would lock down at all. We knew that Asia was already being locked down, but there was not crazy restrictions. But when the U.S. pulled the card, a complete lockdown of traveling, and for the film industry, for us too, was like minimizing the crew size and stuff like that. That kind of threw so much red tape at us to a point where it was impossible for us to even do the film. So, and even having talents, like managers approve of their talents being flown into Asia for a film. Like there's so many, there's so much stuff that you have to think of. Personally, myself, I'm just a DP, so I don't know how to think about that. But because I understand the business behind it, I'm aware of it, right? So, like, that's just like a lot of stuff when it comes to film and entertainment at this time, especially for events, like for Anime Impulse. We were fortunate to have the Anime Impulse event happen in January of this year, and we're probably one of the only 2 conventions of Anime Impulse that actually happened this year. Everything else, like for all my friends that are running event companies this year, they're not expecting to recover or come back until the end of next fall. So, yeah, I think you can talk about Coachella and all the other industries that the entertainment industry that we're in. Events is like tanking hard, you know. So it's rough. It's rough for entertainment at this time. But you know, there's tons of people out there that are finding alternative ways to find income besides EDD or you know, other financial programs. But yeah, it's tough for anybody that's pursuing creative at this moment, just because this whole quarantine thing.
So we want to be respectful of your time, and I know we're approaching the 90-minute mark here. So
Okay.
I want to leave you with one final question. So you had one piece of advice for anyone listening to the podcast right now, what would that be?
Oof. I feel like I gave you guys a lot. So what else is there to give you guys? There's a lot. I can give you guys a lot, but I feel like the best thing that we all can do at your age, and anybody that can relate to this message, is enjoy your journey instead of narrowing down to your end goal. Because your end goal will never be consistent, you know, depending on what comes in life. Your end goal might even pigeonhole you to progress in a better version of yourself, because that's all you see, right, is their end goal. So don't focus so much on the end goal, but focus on the journey that brings you to whatever place you're going to be, right? And see what you have accomplished within on that journey. The smallest things. If it's you talking to your parents, right? That's one, right? Or is it like building a strong relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend? It's 2, right? It's finding and understanding yourself more. It's 3. And only small things about yourself, like anything. These are accomplishments. Don't think accomplishments and success are like big things that happen in your life. No. It's the smallest steps that you take that bring you to the next step in your life. And those things, it's just minute details that you make in your life that really define what you are and who you are and how you want to be the next, version of yourself.
Awesome.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Guys.
Wait, before you go, one of my friends were wondering if the Kirby is. Can you put your hand through that, or is that flat?
Right.
What?
Jason, you were right.
So yeah, it's like you can put your head through it. So so I saw this on an ad for the premium Bandai because premium Bandai release, and it was for kids to put their heads in a napkin in school. And I was like, I want this. So I pre-ordered it and waited like a year and a half until I got this. One of the stupidest investments I made into it. My girlfriend gave me shit for it, but whatever. I enjoy it.
No, it's worth it. That is so cool.
It was worth it.
So funny.
Right. So yeah, there's a Kirby that you can put your head in.
Nice.
For children, but I thought it was cool, so I just
For all ages.
for our ages, yeah.
That's
All right, that was my last question.
All right. Good talking to you guys.
Sweet.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Mhm.